Welcome back everyone to my devlog on the Necrotic Trials. It's been around a month since my last video, where we started work on a modular ability system. I do want to cover some important changes as well as my planned schedule for these devlogs at the end of this video, so stick around for that. In the meantime, let's jump right in. The next step is allowing the player to actually cast abilities. Seems kind of important if you ask me. Before we get to that, however, we need to add unit selection. As units can have different abilities, we need to know what unit is the one we're going to be casting from. This is also a perfect opportunity to branch combat unit into both PlayerUnit and EnemyUnit classes. We can also set the isFriendly property we made last video accordingly. Next, I'll create the UnitManager class, which will be responsible for keeping track of all units in the current level. Although it is possible to group all the units together, I decided to separate the player and enemy units into their own list for simplicity. Then, by adding the corresponding functions to add and remove units, we can call these functions from the PlayerUnit and EnemyUnit classes. We are now ready to add the logic of actually setting the unit when the player clicks on them. One important design decision to note is the player is able to select enemy units. I went this direction because I want the player to be able to view various information about the enemy, such as stats, that might not fit in a simple tooltip. Yay, it works! Okay, I know this is not the most exciting feature, but it's pretty important. And now that that's done, we can move on to some of the more fun stuff. For example, the hotbar. In order to view the abilities on the hotbar, we need an icon to represent each ability. I found this really nice skill icon pack on the Unity Asset Store for a decent price, and I will use this for now. After adding the icon property to the ability definition scriptable object and updating the custom inspector script accordingly, we can set the icon of our test ability. The next classes we need are the AbilityFrame class, which will hold a single ability on the hotbar, as well as the AbilityBarManager, which will handle adding and removing frames when you select and deselect units. Now it's finally time to bring everything together. The AbilityManager class will be responsible for all the logic related to casting an ability. That means we need a reference to the world grid to handle the visuals, and can now move that logic from the last video into the correct place. We also need functions to start, stop, and handle the currently casted ability. Lastly, we can update the UnitManager class to allow for these abilities to be casted with the mouse button. There we go, we can now select units and cast their abilities. As you can see, you cannot select a unit when an ability is being casted, which is perfect. The escape key both cancels an ability, as well as deselects all units depending on if an ability is currently being casted. Now for some updates. Let's start with the schedule for these devlogs. As I mentioned before in my first video, I am currently pursuing my master's degree. What I didn't mention is I'm also working multiple jobs. This leaves me with very little time than I would like to work on these videos. Therefore, my current planned release schedule is between one video a month to one video every couple months, depending on my current workload. Also, as of right now, I only work on this game when I'm making a video, and not the other way around. This is because I've been trying to capture every little thing, despite that going against the norm of most devlogs. For example, there could be a time between classes that I could work on the game, but end up deciding not to due to not being able to record at the time. Therefore, starting with my next video, I will have done some work beforehand and will cover it at the start. So expect a lot more of the code photographs I tried out this video. Next video, I will focus on adding stats and health to our units, as those are required before we can worry about dealing damage with abilities. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you stick around despite the changes. These changes can always evolve over time. For example, next May is when I graduate, and after I graduate I should have more time to work on this game. Once again, thank you very much, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.